So this week we're all about the noise, and I'm going to show you how to make some instruments so that we can join in with singing the story of what the ladybird heard. And we're going to show you a link above so that you can join in with Julia Donaldson and her husband as they sing the song. But we're going to need some instruments to help us do that. So the first instrument, which is really easy to make with things you can find at home, is a little ukulele. And I'm going to take a lid from a jar of jam, and I'm going to use an elastic band. And all you really need to make an instrument like this is something that you can strum and something to string it over. So just by wrapping an elastic band around there, it makes a little ukulele noise, and you can strum that to join in with the song. You could use an empty box. A tissue box would be really good, and you could, if you didn't have an elastic band, you could use hair bubbles or wool or elastic, which you could just tape across. Anything that strings across like that and means that you can make that lovely plucking sound. Now, if you wanted to make this look even more like, say, a ukulele, for example, then you could find something to make a handle or a neck to your instrument. Now, I've got a lollipop stick, but again, if you don't have that, you could just draw out the shape on some card or find something else, maybe a piece of old packet or tube that you could use and attach it onto there, and then that way you've got something to hold like you do when you play an instrument. Now, the second thing you could do to give yourself something so you can play along with the ladybird story is to make a shaker. Now, this is probably the one that absolutely everybody could find the things to make. All you need is some kind of container. Now, I've got a pot and it has a lid, but if you didn't have a pot with a lid, you could have just a cup or anything that you could just hold or tape a lid over, and anything else that makes a rattling noise. So in this dish I've got lentils, but you could use pasta or dried peas or rice, anything that's kind of comes in lots of little bits, maybe even some pebbles out of your garden if you don't have any of those things. And I'm just going to tip some of those lentils. You can already hear the lovely noise they make in there. And I've got a lid for this one, but if you didn't have a lid, you could tape a lid, or you could use some fabric or some card across the top and then put an elastic band around the top to hold it on like that, and that would give you a lid that way, and you've got yourself a shaker to join in. Now, for number 3 musical instrument, you need again a lid or just something that would make quite a nice noise if you banged against it. It could be plastic or cardboard. A paper plate would do, but I'm going to use the lid again because that's what I've got, and that's what it's all about, is looking around and seeing what have I got that I could use for that. Now, all I've done here is I've taken some buttons and I've put some thread through the eyes on the buttons where you'd sew it onto your material if you were making an outfit, and I've secured that on there, and I'm just sellotaping it onto the edge of this lid. Now, if you don't have any spare buttons, you could use pieces of pasta. If you've got the tubey kind of pasta that you could get the thread down the middle, that would work just as well. And I'm taping that onto there so that the thread here is just long enough. I might have made that one a bit long actually, I might have to change it, but the thread on that one is just long enough so that when you twiddle it, it's going to bang on there. And the next thing we need to do is make a handle so that we can twiddle it easily and make those buttons bang, or your pasta bang off the lid. So I'm going to go back to using a lolly stick for my handle, but you could find just a stick in your garden, or maybe a straw, something like that, a pencil even. Actually, that would work really well if you had a colouring pencil or a felt pen, maybe one that doesn't work anymore. And what we're going to do is we're going to tape that on to there, to the lid, so that it becomes the handle. There we go. So I've just taped the pencil, because that was a good one, because it's round and it moves nicely in our hands, onto there, and we're all ready to go. So if we just put it between our hands like that and rub our hands together, listen to that. That's a great instrument for joining in with a ladybird song. So by just gathering up a few things from around the house, finding things that we didn't need anymore, we have managed to make 3 instruments. And I've shown you some ideas of how you can do that, but of course there are lots of different things you could make. And once you've made something that makes a noise, that's when you can really have some fun and start decorating the things you've made. Now, I've had a go at making some of my things look like they're not made quite so much out of old leftover bits and pieces anymore. So I've decorated my shaker. I've put some fabric around the lid to make it a bit prettier and wrapping some ribbon around the side. Now it sounds and looks really good. I have decorated our little ukulele by just using some buttons and colouring in the stick, putting a bit of ribbon on, making it look a little bit more pretty than it was. And I've decorated our our clacker, our noisemaker, by just giving it a smiley face and a little bow. There's all sorts of things you can do using up more bits and pieces, whatever craft materials you have. You really don't have to do any of the things I've done. Just use those ideas and go with it and see how much noise you can make to join in with the ladybird song.